What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. Chris Pennell here. Go my first look for week 9 of the NFL season for DraftKings and FanDuel. It's only Tuesday, so very early in the week, so we don't have a great idea of the injury situations for all of these teams this week. We'll go more in depth on Saturday morning, going game by game, talking cash games, tournaments, and using the optimizer as well. But today, we're just going to do a general brief overview, going position by position. We'll try to build a lineup as you progress through it. And that's basically about it. So if that sounds good to you, do me a favor, make sure you leave a like down below. Scott Chan for brand new. Let's dive right into it. And really quick, if you like what you see on the screen today, it's available at my website, cpendfs.com, plus a lot more for the NFL Classic main slate, projections, data, optimizers, stack sheets, a bunch of cool stuff. Player pools, going over cash games and tournaments, and I do cover the flagship showdowns as well. So if you're to check it out, you can find the link down in the description or the pinned comment, and the first week is free. And as always, we'll start with the quarterback position, and hopefully this week goes a bit better than last week. If you did well last weekend, congrats to you. Me, myself, probably one of my worst single entry performances that I can remember. Finished almost last. I mean, I'm probably hanging out with the people that didn't even fill out their lineup. But I thought Jonathan Taylor was a great play on paper, of course. Just the way I was constructing my lineups, I went more Christian McCaffrey, I went more Bijan Robinson, and of course Jonathan Taylor dunks all over me. But the thing is, it wouldn't even have mattered if I had Jonathan Taylor or not. I mean, his 5,000 points that he scored still wouldn't have got me there. So I guess I'd rather finish last than edge cash anyway. But new week, so let's see what happens. But I do think we have some very entertaining games this week. Of course, we're going to start with Buffalo in Kansas City. This is going to be game of the week. This is usually our AFC divisional or AFC championship, conference championship game that we get every single year in the playoffs. Tends to be Buffalo, wins in the regular season. KC gets their licks back in the playoffs. But this game's going to be in Buffalo, 52.5 point over under. This is a slight favorite towards the Chiefs as they are 1.5 point favorites. 27.5 total for Mahomes and 26.5 for Josh Allen. Both quarterbacks coming off some pretty big performances. I know Patrick Mahomes did have 2 picks last week. You could even argue 2 of them. Both of them, though, were not his fault. The one clearly wasn't, right through Travis Kelce's hands. Other one, back shoulder throw. It was iffy. Good play by the defender. But right now, Patrick Mahomes is playing at an MVP level. I would currently say he is my vote for the MVP. I haven't checked odds after last week's games. I know Josh Allen went off versus Carolina. Mahomes had a good game with a couple of turnovers, but I still assume it's going to be in Mahomes' favor. But this game will be telling for sure because it's the head-to-head matchup here. Baker's kind of scuffled the previous 2 weeks, so we'll see what ends up happening in that market. But as of right now, Patrick Mahomes, I did actually get some early projection runs, and he is, of course, going to be the QB1. And then, of course, Josh Allen is the QB2. You cannot go wrong with either. Now, I will say I prefer Mahomes on this slate. They both run the ball, both averaging around 35 rushing yards per game, which we know Patrick Mahomes has always been able to run in the past, but I feel like he didn't run until he had to in the playoffs. So really nice to see his legs being used. And also Isaiah Pacheco is going to be week to week. I would say it's likely that he ends up missing. And Kareem Hunt's a fine goal line filler. They have Rashad Smith, but maybe Mahomes ends up using his legs a little bit more. But I also think he's a bit easier to stack with. Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce. After that, it gets a little bit iffy. I mean, you have Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, the list goes on. But Josh Allen, I mean, he can basically just score all himself. So I do like Mahomes a little bit more here, easier to stack with him. But there is run back options on Buffalo we could use, but we'll talk about those guys in a little bit. But right now, if you have the money, I do think Mahomes makes the most sense, at least from a cash game perspective this week, which he is at a premium price point. So we're going to have to, if you do go with Mahomes or Josh Allen, just keep that in mind. We're going to have to probably spend down a little bit of running back and wide receiver to make that work. And then after that, I mean, I really like those two. But there is other good games on this slate, and there actually is a much cheaper game at a 52.5 point over-under with Caleb Williams and Joe Flacco. We'll get to them in a second. But if we can't afford the premium game, we have the same amount of points projected to be scored, and they're not half the price, but pretty close to it, right? But Justin Herbert here, $6,800. He'll be on the road in Tennessee. Kind of prefer him to be at home. Game only has a 43.5 point over-under. They are double-digit favorites. I know my head is in the way. I do apologize, but a 27.5 implied team total here for Los Angeles. Very easy to stack with Herbert. The problem is one of those guys usually ends up busting. Last week it was Quentin Johnston. Keenan Allen, not a great game either, but Ladd McConkey ended up having the ceiling game. And then you also have Gatson, who has pretty much propelled himself, which is also hurting the wide receivers, but there's an endless list of options. And the run game, which Vital was good, it's not an elite run game either way. Matthew Stafford, we get a little bit cheaper after that. I don't love that they are 2 touchdown favorites at home, but I do like the 29.5 implied team total here for the Rams. It's very easy to stack with him. Puka Nacua is expected to be back. You play Devontae Adams, very easy double stack there. You can run it back with Chris Olave if you would like. They are starting the rookie quarterback as well, which could that be a boost for him? Maybe. So Shaheed could get a bit of a bump. Daniel Jones playing excellent in this offense. It is a run-first offense, but with the defense having to respect the run so much, it does give Daniel Jones a little bit of an easier time back there. And believe it or not, it sounds crazy to say, because growing up, my entire life, the Pittsburgh Steelers, known for a good defense. They have a great defense. They have lower totals, but we're at 49.5 here. This is in Pittsburgh, not in the Dome in Indianapolis. The Colts have a 27.5 point implied team total, and the Steelers are currently allowing the second most points per game to the quarterback position, only behind the Dallas Cowboys. So I am fine with Daniel Jones. I'm fine with Jonathan Taylor, of course, but you do have to pay nearly $10,000 and I think $11,000 over on FanDuel, but he has been worth it so far this year. Jordan Love coming off a huge game versus the defense that we just talked about. Panthers just got shredded by Josh Allen, and while Jordan Love is not Josh Allen, it is kind of easy to stack with him because you can just throw in Tucker Kraft because the dude's an absolute beast. I don't love Jared Goff. I mean, I don't think Minnesota has the best defense in the NFL, but they definitely do not have the worst. I mean, they're definitely pretty solid. If you're looking at how they've been versus quarterbacks this year, they're 13. So I wouldn't even say it's a plus matchup, but I can't ignore a quarterback that has a 30-point implied team total at home. The Lions play great. They're going to put up points. I can't imagine the ownership is going to be high at all, because if people do go cheap, they are probably going with the 2 quarterbacks that we have right below them. Caleb Williams versus Joe Flacco. This game is a 52.5 point over-under, the exact same as the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. It's only a 2.5 point spread, 27.5 point total for the Chicago Bears, and 25.5 for Joe Flacco. Good options in this game: Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, whatever tight end you prefer on either team. Even DeAndre Swift and Chase Brown, all usable. 2 bad defenses. If you're looking at how they've done versus quarterbacks this year, the Bengals are 26th and the Bears are 25th. So plus matchups all around. If you cannot afford the premium quarterbacks this week, you can get a similar game environment at a much cheaper cost. Okay, off to the build. We had a lot of quarterbacks listed. I think it's a pretty wide open slate. Of course, there is 2 games I think people are going to want to target. Myself this week, I do want to play Christian McCaffrey, but the thing is, if I go cheap, I probably end up finding myself having to play Jamar Chase in that game, whether I play Caleb Williams or if I play Joe Flacco. We're going to see if we can make it work. I'm not going to worry about Christian McCaffrey now, because if I'm playing Flacco or I'm playing Caleb Williams, the stack comes first, then the rest comes in. But let's just play the old unk, Joe Flacco. He's been slinging the rock. He gives Jamar Chase 35 targets a game. And that number is actually not too far off the actual number, as crazy as that sounds. So I'll go with Flacco, and we'll move on to the RBs. And once again, we have quite a few options this week, whether we want to spend up, go down the middle, or even down low, potentially if someone happens to be in or out on the Kansas City Chiefs. But just speaking of the man of the hour, the man of the year, just an incredible season from Jonathan Taylor so far. I think I read a tweet where he's pretty much matched Saquon Barkley's touchdowns from last year, and we just finished week 8. So incredible run from Jonathan Taylor. We're talking nearly 6 yards per carry on the season, averaging over 100 rushing yards per game. Still under 20 rushing attempts. Just he's been incredibly efficient. He's using the passing game a little bit. 3.5 targets per game, 11% target share, 21 opportunities per game. It's not the best matchup versus Pittsburgh. They have been worse versus the past this season, but I don't really think it matters with this offensive line and how good they have been operating on just a yards per play basis. And Jonathan Taylor, an incredible talent. Everything's clicking for them. So if you want to play Taylor this week, go for it. Myself, at these price points, I'm not going to do it. If you want to do it, go ahead. I'm not going to. Christian McCaffrey, I do like a bit better on a point per dollar basis. I know he busted last week, but you got to give the man some slack. He has been incredible outside of that. Just a horrible performance in the first half versus the Texans are a really good defense, but the first half versus the Texans, I mean, the time of possession was like 5 minutes compared to 25. There was no opportunities for Christian McCaffrey. They tried getting him going just way too late, unfortunately, when they only had the chance to, but the usage is still going to be elite going forward. We're talking 27 opportunities per game, a 26% target share, nearly double-digit targets per game, 70 receiving yards, 60 rushing yards. It's awesome. I mean, we're getting another 30 opportunities from this guy. Much easier spot versus the Giants. They are a bottom 10 team versus fantasy running backs this year, getting a $1,000 discount on DraftKings. a $1,500 discount on FanDuel. I know it's not a PPR site over on FanDuel. It's half point PPR, which it kind of nerfs Christian McCaffrey a little bit. But man, that discount is monstrous, and the projections are not going to be too far off. So I got to give the edge to Christian McCaffrey this week. Josh Jacobs. We saw James Cook go for over 200 yards last week. It looked like the old Carolina Panthers rush defense because they've been better this season. They actually still rank 15th, but just James Cook absolutely annihilated them last week. This is just a high volume play. I don't usually like playing Josh Jacobs because you're kind of reliant on the touchdowns, but I'm fine with it if he's going to give me 20 opportunities here. I mean, I'm not comparing him to Jonathan Taylor, but he's $2,000 cheaper. Taylor obviously projects way better. Not by 10 points, but definitely has a decent margin on him. Vital, I mean, if he's going to be the only running back in the backfield, we'll see what happens with Hassan Haskins, but either way, Haskins really isn't much of a threat. Should be the Vital show, and he was pretty productive last week. He can be a pass catcher. Didn't really need that to be the case last week. Tennessee Titans are bottom 3 versus running backs this year, and that price point is real nice. DeAndre Swift, Chase Brown, 2 cheap running backs in this game, kind of 2 similar running backs. They're both averaging right around 17 opportunities per game. So the Bengals are dead last versus running backs, and the Chicago Bears are 24th. So 2 really good matchups for both of these guys. They're both capable pass catchers. We finally saw Chase Brown have a bit of a ceiling game last week, which is nice to see. Got into the end zone a couple of times, and with Joe Flacco under center, just opens the offense up way more compared to Jake Browning. So I do think this price point's probably a bit too cheap on both sides, him and DeAndre Swift. Jaylen Warren, I like the usage we have seen from him this year as a capable pass catcher. And I do think this game should be fairly high scoring. I don't absolutely love the matchup, but I do like the price point from him. He is averaging 17.5 opportunities per game, which I think at this price point, it's good enough to, I think, at least be in the player pool right now. And not my favorite play. Tyrone Tracy with no Cam Scatabo, rest in peace to him. That was an awful injury to, I think we're all Scatabo fans, so kind of sucked to see, of course. But Tracy is just too cheap. Now, I don't love the matchup versus the 49ers, but they're also playing at home. It's a pretty high total of 48.5. It's only 2.5 point spread. We know Tracy can catch passes for sure. And it's actually a slightly plus matchup for him, at least on a fantasy points per game basis that the 49ers have given up this year. So at $5,100, if you need salary relief, whether it be on DraftKings or FanDuel, $6,000 over there, looks fantastic. And we will have to monitor the news for Isaiah Pacheco. If he happens to be out, I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to be locked in for 20-plus touches like maybe back in the day. But at that price point, it's still usable enough to where right now he's averaging 9.1 opportunities per game. If we can get 10 to 15 at this price point, and plus he gets the goal line work, which is very valuable on an offense that tends to get around the goal line quite often at $4,700, he would definitely be viable, but you still need him to get into the end zone most likely to pay off, and they would also have Smith as well. Hey, after the build, like I said, I would love Christian McCaffrey, but the problem is if I play McCaffrey, I'm also playing Jamar Chase. It really starts to kill this out. I do think it's actually possible this week, but we're going to revisit it at the end. If I remember, I'm probably going to forget anyway, so we'll never know. But we're going to take CMC out. I might as well just leave Chase in there, but we'll just make it more dramatic. Speak for the wide receiver position later. But let's just spend down a little bit. I really like Vital here at $6,300. I feel like I say his name wrong. Vidal, whatever. Who cares, right? As long as he scores fantasy points. And then we will also throw in Mr. Tyrone Tracy there at $5,100, who is just simply underpriced this week. With no, I don't know why they didn't bump his price up. Makes no sense to me. But we have a very, very cheap start to this lineup. We have Flacco under $6K, and both of our running backs are also very cheap. One even cheaper than the other. So we'll have no problem at all affording Jamar Chase. We're probably going to look around with Dunze. I'll probably double stack with T. Higgins. So we kind of already have our 3 wide receiver slots locked up. But let's talk about all the other wide receivers. And then wide receiver, we don't usually talk about these guys in depth because I've talked about the quarterbacks. I've talked about the stacks, maybe indirectly. Like, we know who we like. We like the game environments. That's how I play the wide receiver position. I'm not sitting here and talking wide receiver quarterback matchups that don't matter in the grand scheme of things over the course of a 60-minute game. Who cares? Coaches can scheme these guys open. I don't care what the matchup is. Now, I do care about the overall matchup of a defense, and I care about the game environment. But if we're talking this guy's going to play against this corner 47%, I don't care. All right, so let's get into it here. I mean, lots of options. I really didn't find any just complete punt wide receivers. We haven't really had much of that this year, it seems like. Now, I went pretty cheap to start my specific build here, and it's just an example build. I'm not saying to play this on Sunday. Of course, it's way too early to be building anyway. I'm probably going to be able to spend up a little, but I don't think I have to worry about these punt wide receivers, so we kind of have our pick of the litter. Of course, in our build that we're building right now, I have Joe Flacco, so I have to play Jamar Chase. Joe Flacco is not scoring points on Sunday if Jamar Chase is not scoring points. T. Higgins, I would like in there as well. He's within $100. 2 catches last week, I believe. One was the bomb. Pretty much it. But, I mean, the upside is there for him. But I could probably see Jamar Chase being a pretty big cash game staple this week. Once again, I think people probably try to jam in CMC and Jamar Chase. At least that's my guess. As of right now, I think they'll probably take the savings on CMC over Jonathan Taylor, but recency bias, who knows? That might end up getting kind of blended out. If you are playing Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, if we're just full game stacking this, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, or if I'm playing Caleb Williams, I got to find some stacking options. You're on those two, you're in a back with one of the Bengals guys. Jared Goff with Amon-Ra St. Brown. J-Mo is a bit of a wild card. I don't have him on here, but of course, he is fine. Lad McConkey, Keenan Allen would be my preferred options if I have Justin Herbert. Josh Allen's a very tough one to stack with. Shakir is like the safety valve option. Same with Dalton Kincaid. Keon Coleman, great second half of week 1. After that, it's basically been nothing. So it feels like kind of just a shiny new Gabe Davis in that offense, basically, where he might get you 0, he might pop off, but more often than not, you're probably going to be disappointed. Trying to see if we didn't hit on anybody else. Chris Olave, I think, would be a fine cash game option just because they're going to have to throw the football. They're on the road. Not like he's not used to not playing in a dome anyway, or playing in a dome, I should say. But the target's going to be their new quarterback. Is that an upgrade? Is it not? I can't imagine it's going to be anything worse. So at $6,100, I assume he's going to be pretty popular. But yeah, just trying to find wide receivers and good game environments, trying to correlate them with my quarterbacks is basically going to be the name of the game here. I don't see any like complete standout cash game wide receivers outside of Jamar Chase. But Chris Olave seems like a very safe option. Rome Odunze seems like a very safe option. I'd like to say Rashee Rice, but kind of expensive. We know he's going to get the football, and if I'm playing Patrick Mahomes, I'm 100% playing Rashee Rice. It's just a matter of being able to afford him if I don't have Patrick Mahomes, because I don't really need to prioritize him if I do not. But outside of that, yeah, just kind of just playing the correlation game, basically. And back to our build here, like I said, we kind of already know our 3 wide receivers. So we're playing Jamar Chase. That is our first spend up of this build. Playing Rome Odunze, which not really a spend up, but I would say in the upper mid-range there at $6,600. And we're also going to play T. Higgins, who's a little bit cheaper at $5,900. So we didn't really spend up too much, but we are sitting at $4,000 left for the remaining 3 positions. Now we do have a cheap defense. Tight end, I don't know. We'll see if we end up, can't really break the bank there, but we'll see if we end up paying nearly $6,000, or we could find a cheaper option. Just kind of depends what we're working with, but I don't really think we're going to have a premium flex option. And then we have tight ends. Honestly, I'm going to try my best just to pair him with my quarterback, although in this specific build, I don't really want to play a quarterback with a tight end with Joe Flacco. I mean, Noah Fant, Tanner Hudson, Drew Sample. Doesn't really appeal to me too much, but all these other quarterbacks do have really good guys. We have Tucker Gronkowski here, $5,700. Excellent game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've been getting killed versus tight ends, and the standout rookie, Tyler Warren, he actually gets the honor of playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I'm sure he's in line for a very solid game. Him and Tucker Kraft, just absolute money all season long. We have Aranda Gates there at $5,300, who is crushing it the past few weeks in Los Angeles. Looks like he's going to be legit. I know the numbers overall aren't like elite, like 14% target share on the season, but just the past few weeks, those numbers have been much higher instead of looking at the absolute overall. He's barely blocking 5% of the time, running routes nearly 70% of the time. I mean, to the moon, Gatson. The dude looks really good. Travis Kelce is very cheap, nearly 100 yards on Monday night. Got into the end zone as well, just like the spot here. I mean, this is going to be a back and forth game, high scoring game. Kelce at $4,600. If I have Patrick Mahomes, I'm probably playing Travis Kelce. Sam Laporta, if I'm playing Jared Goff, it's the only way I'd get to Sam Laporta. Dalton Kincaid for trying to get cheap exposure this game, maybe a run back option with the KC stack, or if I'm playing Josh Allen, Kincaid is probably my favorite target there. And Dalton Schultz, just because I have no idea what's going to happen with the Texans. I don't know who's going to be back. I don't know who's going to be gone. So if everybody's out once again, I don't mind going back to Schultz. I know he busted last week, but it doesn't change anything. He'll be in line, at least theoretically, for a pretty good role. Okay, let's finish this off. We need 3 spots left. As always, we go to defense. We scroll all the way to the bottom, and we're going to find the first one that we like that we don't think gets absolutely shredded. Last week, that was the Bengals that got shredded. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. But no chance I am playing any of these guys. The Giants, maybe, but I still don't really want to. That game does have a pretty decent total on it. But at the Texans, I believe that game was a 39.5 point over/under, and the Broncos, I'm pretty sure, are a sub 20 implied team total. So, I mean, this is one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think the Texans are kind of an easy click there. Defense is never easy. I mean, anything can happen to a defense, but that does make a lot of sense to me. All right, tight end. Ooh, yeah, we definitely don't have swap out for Christian McCaffrey money on. I feel like I should have more salary left, but I do not. I mean, yeah, Jamar Chase is almost $9,000, so I guess I get it. But nobody else is really that expensive in my lineup. Anyway, 4,600 left. I mean, we could punt with Schultz if you want. He's still, what, 33, 36. We just got done talking. Yeah, $3,600. Maybe Kincaid's $4,000. I mean, I wouldn't mind Travis Kelce here just to get some exposure to that game because I have no exposure to it. But the problem is that leaves us with $4,600 in the flex. I mean, we're just missing out on Kareem Hunt if Isaiah Pacheco happened to be out. See, not many great options. I mean, Keon Coleman, if you're trying to go with a little stack of that game, I don't think we're in. Yeah, Khalil Shakir is a little bit more expensive. I mean, there's a couple guys down here that are usable. I think Jennings is actually a bit underpriced this week at $4,300. I almost had him on the initial sheet here, but he didn't quite make the cut. We'll see what happens with Drake London. I know Darnell Mooney was very disappointing last week, but I wouldn't mind going back to the well there. But there's a couple of options you could end up making, and it is what it is. I mean, if we could swap out Travis Kelce for a little bit cheaper, we'd have a little bit more money. Okay, for example, if we played, instead of Travis Kelce, we went to Dalton Kincaid. We'll see what makes a difference for the flex. So we'd have $5,200. That puts us with DJ Moore. Don't really want a double run back. Ariel Dobbs, Wandale Robinson, Shichi Heed. I don't think it's a bad tournament play at all. So I'll just let you guys use your imagination on that. Brock Bowers, only $5,000. I shouldn't say only. It seems cheap based off of last year, but I guess I get it. He is returning from injury, but hopefully this is the healthiest we've had him all season since week 1 at the very least. And you could play Kareem Hunt, I guess, in this example, depending on what happens. So you get a little bit of game stack correlation there. But overall, we have Joe Flacco double stacked with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, ran back from Odunze. I think we have 2 pretty solid running back values there with the Chargers and Tyrone Tracy. Kincaid, Kelce at tight end. I really like going with one of those 2 guys, but I want to say it's pretty wide open. If I had the money, of course, I would love any. No, I'd love any of those guys too, but any of Tucker Kraft, Tyler Warren, Gatson, you name it. And then we have the Texans defense, who I'm going to assume right now playing at home is going to be the chalk this week. But with that being said, that's all for today's video. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, even if you didn't, make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel for brand new. If any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I'm more than happy to answer them. But wish you the best, and I'll see y'all next time.